Welcome to The Connection Code, a podcast where we explore the relationships that make your life and work just a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Jeana and Rachel. I'm the founder of 3PR, an agency that supports healthy food brands. And I have a deep and abiding passion for making introductions. So if you're in my life, you're probably going to get one.
And I'm Jeana Anderson Cohen. I started a health and wellness media company called A Sweat Life that tricks adults into making friends through fitness. And I'm also building a soon-to-be open boutique hotel and event space in New Buffalo, Michigan called Petite Acres. I love gathering and helping people make friends. And Rachel, today we are doing a bit of a grab bag and a friendship in the news. It's sort of like a whole episode of show and tell.
Yes, connection is trending.
It really is. So we have, I think, 3 stories each that we'll go through, and we'll talk about what we think, if we agree with it, and any hot takes.
Let's do it.
Do you want to start?
Yes, actually, this was so interesting to me because for context, we send each other stuff all week long. Sometimes it's through DMs, sometimes it's text, but we have sort of a never-ending conversation about connection topics. And
Correct.
There was such a surplus of content that we felt like it warranted its own episode. I found this article, immediately clicked on it. It's a Wall Street Journal story about how we are literally talking less, as in our daily word count has been studied and dropped. And then I looked at the byline because I always love to see who writes a piece. And it's a work friend of mine, Julie Jargon. So Julie, great job on this piece.
Great last name.
Were you alarmed, or were you not surprised at all that we are, as a society, are speaking less?
I wasn't surprised, but I was alarmed. I wasn't surprised because we've talked at length about those sort of small stranger interactions that are super, super meaningful for us. Things like talking to your barista, talking to the checkout clerk. And we know that those are degrading with technology, with self-checkout, with apps, et cetera, et cetera. So not surprised, but alarmed because of one big key element that was mentioned in that article too, which is there's an early childhood development milestone, which is essentially words spoken to a child. But we as adults, and as we get older, are not immune to the fact that we need to hear and speak a certain amount of words every day in order to keep our brains from atrophying. So it is alarming to me from that perspective. And if we think about the next generation, language acquisition happens because you are hearing language. So if we are not speaking or hearing language, it's just overall bad for the next generation. What did you think?
I'm with you 100%. And I thought immediately, it's going to go back to the twins a couple different times here, but they're my perfect test case for Gen Alpha. So one thing that makes me really happy is that Shira does not shy away from and actually really relishes talking to strangers or talking to adults. So I might have mentioned we live by this fabulous bookstore, 3 Avenues. And if they have a book that Shira wants and she's not sure like when she can grab it or whatnot, she'll pick up the phone and call the bookstore and talk to the person at the front desk and say, "Hi, it's Shira. Do you have, the 3rd version of The Summer I Turned Pretty," or whatever it might be. And what I'm most proud of is her ability to hold a conversation with an adult she doesn't know or doesn't know well and feel confident moving through that transaction. Kayla hates talking to people she doesn't know. She doesn't want to ask the barista for a water. She doesn't want to call the bookstore. But I think for Gen Alpha, there's so many ways to avoid talking and avoid building proficiency in conversation that it's scary. I mean, for the rest of their lives, they will conceivably have AI to improve or to map out how they can communicate. But at the end of the day, you have to know how to do it intrinsically. So I thought this was a fascinating piece. Julie, you did a great job on it, and we should not drop our daily word count.
No, we should not. And it's also like really interesting because the researchers who discovered that the daily word count had dropped stumbled upon it because what they were looking for was a gender difference. They assumed that men and women were speaking different amounts of words every single day. So they looked longitudinally at old studies and found that across the board, men, women, age groups, everyone was speaking less. And I do love a surprise finding.
I just went into my memory bank for a second. I remember my dad still teases me about this, but when I was a little elementary schooler, I was in the back seat of my Papa Jerry's car and I was chatting away because I've always had a high word count. And I paused and I go, Papa, am I talking too much? And it was
Oh,
like this moment of self awareness as a little kid that perhaps I was using a very high word count. But I think my daily word usage has never really deviated, but I do
no.
think it's important for people to communicate. Okay,
Yeah.
we are making a big pivot here to friendship now. You sent me this post.
Yes, I did. Okay, so this was an Instagram post. We love a carousel post, and this was by Logan Ury, who's the scientist at Hinge, which love. And she's also a dating coach on Netflix. Although, like, we know that dating and friendship have a lot in common. It's interesting how she's sort of pulling that into this conversation. So she specifically, in an interview, talked about how she stopped planning dinners with friends. She is really wary of the catch up. And she started planning more novelty. So new experiences, new adventures with friends. She did position it as sort of a hot take, like no more dinners with friends, no more catch ups, only new experiences, which we know how hot takes do on podcasts and the internet. They do quite well. They stir up the conversation. But I'm curious, Rachel, how do you feel about this? The dinner, no more, only new experiences.
Okay. I really thought this was a powerful take on friendship, so much so that I sent it to a few friends immediately. Because if we're being realistic, sitting in our 40s, a lot of our friendship time is catching up.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with name the category,
Mm-hmm.
your spouse, your job, your kids,
Mm-hmm.
your family, any number of things. And so it's a lot of trading information back and forth,
Yeah.
which, to be fair, not super memorable. But I think what she's describing of only create novel, exciting new experiences that build memories with your good friends is the difference between a honeymoon and a marriage. Of course, we all want to be on honeymoons, but you also have the consistency in the day to day of marriage. So to me, this is something to aspire to occasionally, a great girls' trip, all the effort that goes into forging an experience together. Like, say you and I were like, we're going to go rock climbing and then we're going to go to a wine tasting afterwards. And
We
then
really
we're going to end
should.
it with a concert. I mean, dream, right? Like,
Yeah, put it in the
I want a
calendars.
magical friend date,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of legwork versus me being like, hey, Jeana, do you want to meet for like a super casual 90-minute dinner that's near both of us? And then we can just sort of get caught up on each other's lives. So I think there's real validity to what she's saying, and novelty is important, but you can't sacrifice friendship consistency by completely getting rid of sort of the day-to-day, like legwork almost of let's get together so we have FaceTime and we still feel connected.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take?
So I think, like anything in life, it's both. It's not one or the other. You need a yap. Like you need to sit
A
down.
yap.
Exactly. You need to sit down with your girls and yap and and process things together and ask them if you're crazy for how you felt about that woman at work who makes you feel absolutely nuts. Like, is it me? And they'll say it is not you invariably, except for your one friend who's telling you the truth. It is you. But I do have to agree that novelty is really good for our brains and really good for connections. So the author and researcher Laura Vanderkam, who spends a lot of her time researching how we perceive time, she actually argues for small moments of novelty, even if that's like taking a new route to work or ordering a different drink, because those little moments of novelty, like, yes, novelty could mean a trip to Brazil, but it also could mean walking a different path with your friend, as you have a conversation. But anyway, those little moments of novelty knock us out of this sort of zip file phenomenon that we've talked about, Rachel, where our brains, if we're seeing and feeling and experiencing routine, our brain thinks, okay, I don't need to remember that. I will compress it. It is one memory. That's why we feel like our lives are just flying by, passing us by, because we're not creating memories that make our brains expand. So the novelty memories, what she's arguing for is valid. It does create these new expansive memories like we have all the time when we're younger, because we're going to new bars, we're meeting new like boys, girls, etc., going on spring break. It's harder to do that as adults, but the case for it is strong.
Yes. I will also say if you enjoy a very active and controversial comment section, people had strong disagreements with
Yeah.
Logan, and it was
Yeah.
interesting to read through people's takes.
Yeah, they it's a lot of hard disagree. I
Yes.
totally understand what she was saying though. Rachel, I'm so excited to talk about the next article you brought.
This was a bizarre one.
Mhm.
I think I got this from Casey Lewis's Substack. She writes an
Okay.
amazing after school Substack that I pay for and love, and she really tracks Gen Z trends. I think this is where I sourced the article, but it was, would you let an app pick your friends? It was, I think, a Canadian publication called The
Mhm.
Walrus, and the author tried out different friendship apps. So the premise of dating, except you're new to a city, you're at a life stage where you don't know a lot of people, you want to foster social connections. So this app is meant to link you up with people who would be compatible. And then you go out with these plans that are sort of prearranged for you to reduce friction. Gino, would you let an app choose your friends?
Okay, so in I want to say no, but I also understand the yes of it. Because I understand what it's like to go somewhere new and want to meet new friends because I'm living it, but the apps that were profiled, which were 222 and Time left is a little more like you can find it everywhere. People use it as solo travelers to get dinner with other solo travelers or locals. The thing about it, like the 222 app, it uses an algorithm to match you with people who are deeply similar to you, from similarities in your religious beliefs to similarities in your political beliefs to similarities in your drinking preferences. And those things can be really, really nice. But the thing about algorithms when it comes to matching us and feeding us news is they narrow, they don't widen. So we end up getting narrowed in to people who just say yes to everything we say yes to. They don't widen our worldview, they shrink it. So I think one of the wonderful things about friends and connections and the people we meet in this lifetime is that they have the ability to change your mind. But if you refuse to meet anyone who thinks differently than you, your mind can never be changed.
Well, they
That's
do sound like friend clones. Like
they found
if you want an
exactly.
iteration of you over and over. I think there was an example in the story that a group of six went out for drinks and they all ordered the exact same cocktail, right? Which
Yep.
really underscores this idea of meeting
We're
people
all
who
the
are,
same.
we're so similar.
Yeah.
Which again, pros and cons. Like I can see the
Mhm.
comfort of, oh, we like the same books and we're into the same food and we
Yeah.
want to spend our time the same way. I thought about this and I realized today I probably would not gravitate towards an app to make my friends. If I was in my 20s, new city, didn't
Yeah.
have a real portal into relationships, I probably would. But you are
Yeah.
talking to somebody that dated not one, but two different guys I met on public transportation. So
Right.
I am not afraid of a random encounter.
Right. I know. And we go back to like bonding and bridging here, like
Yes.
bonding relationships that are with people who are very similar to us. These apps push bonding, bridging relationships with people who are dissimilar. Um, the dissimilar people widen our empathy, widen our worldview. I think like if we eliminate bridging entirely, which is what the Instagram algorithm, friendship algorithms do, then I don't know, we just end up with less empathy overall. And I think we'll see a measurable drop.
Yes. I guess like a final thought on this particular thing about the apps is you could be like, oh, it's so dystopian that you have to rely on an app to make friends. But I actually kind of like that instead of it just being romantic, there are things that are coming into being. So if you feel a little lonely or you want to
Hmm.
create a new circle or you're just curious and want to be out more, there are
Hmm.
tools where you're not combing
Yeah.
Craigslist ads.
Yeah. I like the idea of matching people based on like interest. Like I would like to try X, match a bunch of people based on that.
Yes. Kind
I
of like a
think
run
I
club.
exactly, exactly. Run clubs are the quintessential vehicle for bridging and meeting people who aren't exactly like you, because running, anybody can run. All you need is shoes. There's no like, unless you're training for a marathon, there's no real cost or barrier to entry.
Well, I think back on, again, my 20s were, they seem like an eternity ago, and the technology was so different slash non-existent then.
Mhm.
But a lot of the things that built my social group then was joining a softball team where I was the worst
Yeah.
player, a BYOB club because we were all broke and liked the idea of going to these
Mhm.
BYOB restaurants.
Love.
And then like amalgamating, aggregating friends by like, I waitress here, I intern here, my parents know
Mhm.
this person's son, this person went to college, and you sort of like stick on and collect and add people as you go. So no app involved, but like being a joiner and a yes person and collecting, I think is also just a great way to develop friendships when you're starting from scratch. So when I was in my 20s, which was roughly a million years ago, none of this technology existed, but the desire to make friends has always been there. And I think back on how, and it was kind of a mix. It was joining a softball team where I was the absolute worst player. It was being part of a BYOB club, which was amazing because we were all kind of broke and wanted to try new restaurants. And people would add different friends into the mix. So each BYOB outing every month felt a little varied and exciting. Even dating led you to meet new people and you would
Mhm.
meet their friends. But I think it's just being willing to say yes to a lot of things. I also waitressed even past when I got my first job because it was a great conduit to meeting other people and having a different
Mhm.
social group. So I think being willing to put yourself out there in all different realms, whether it's an app or not, is just a good way to broaden your social circle.
Yeah. I think back to first jobs, waitressing, interning, just being around people
Being
equals
around people,
being
using your
around
word
people.
count.
Using your word count. Exactly. Like being in the presence of others, saying anything at all. First two steps of friendship.
Yeah, there was just so much more friction when we were younger. You had to call people, talk to people, reach out. And if you felt awkward in public, there was nothing to look at on your phone because it flipped open and that was it.
Do you think it was more friction, or do we perceive it as friction now? Because it was like back then, it's like a fish. You don't even know you're in water.
No, Jeana, I would just described it as life.
Life. Exactly.
Yes. But we're going to get to this other article about phones as a crutch. But I'm loving our connection is trending. Oh, doorbell friends. You ready for this one?
Doorbell friends. Yes. So Pop Sugar had a piece about doorbell friends. And this is honestly the platonic dream of friendship, living near or semi near to people who you are comfortable with, just swinging by. The idea of a doorbell friend is someone with whom you are comfortable enough to just have them drop by unannounced, and you are in turn comfortable in dropping by to their house unannounced. I'm curious, Rachel, when's the last time you had doorbell friends, or do you have doorbell friends now?
Okay, doorbell friends are the ideal. And I really like, I'm looking ahead, Gina. I want to be
Mhm.
retired in Palm Springs and have it
Yep.
feel like camp where all my
Yep.
friends live in the same compound and we can
Mhm.
doorbell all night long. But
Yep.
I had a doorbell moment that I thought of. I was really proud of this one.
Oh.
So a couple months ago, I met my friend Zach, who I've known since preschool. And we had like an hour window to grab a drink on a Friday. If you are looking for a bar that's open at like 4:30 p.m., it's Whole Foods. So we went to
Okay.
Whole
Yeah, that's
Foods.
the one. That's the one.
Yeah, we went to Whole Foods, had a drink, caught up. And then as we were wrapping up, I thought, oh, I'm right by my friend Stacy's house. I bet she's busy. But you know what? I'm just going to reach out and say, any chance I could stop by on my walk home? And she's like, I am home. I'm free coming over for a glass of wine. And so I walked over, rang the doorbell, caught up impromptu with Stacy, had a great like Friday night friendship moment. It filled my cup. And then I walked home and I felt so good. And the reason I remember this so distinctly is because of how seldom this happens.
Yeah.
Every plan is so it lacks spontaneity. It's on the
Mhm.
calendar for weeks. You have to wedge it in. Nobody just drops by unannounced, and you'd probably feel a little panicky if they did.
Mhm.
So I think this is a beautiful concept. And I also really feel a little bit sad for my kids because when I grew up in a Minnesota suburb, people would ring your doorbell and say, do you want to
Yeah.
play? Do you want to come
Do you want
over?
to play?
Capture the
Yeah.
flag, whatever it may be. Like we literally
Mhm.
had a neighborhood capture the flag.
Yeah.
My kids have never experienced doorbell friendship.
Mhm. Tell me, did your games of capture the flag end in tears? Yes or no?
I don't recall crying, but I think the parents were like, this is the best hack ever. Like a bunch of
Yeah.
feral kids running through the streets playing capture the flag, and the parents could do whatever they wanted until it was like too dark out.
Yeah. I broke up with
Did
my
you have?
fourth grade. Yeah. I broke up with my fourth grade boyfriend over a highly contentious game of capture the flag. Yeah. And I think it was a moment of, I break up with you.
Is it this like a Minnesota thing to play capture the flag in the summer?
I don't know. But capture the flag is a deeply nostalgic childhood game. We played it at camp.
Yes.
But we called it, I mean, like Color Wars is capture the flag, just like big. But I will say, okay, so doorbell friends. Childhood had doorbell friends. College had doorbell friends.
For sure.
For sure. I mean, like swinging by someone's dorm or living in the same apartment complex with someone, like you didn't even lock your doors. And then I would even say in the last couple of years in different condo buildings and apartment buildings that I lived in across Chicago, like there were some that were more community driven. Like my last building before we moved to Southwest Michigan, there was my friend Lisa, who you've met. Lisa was constantly organizing people to get together, have dinner, grill on the roof of the building. The roof of our building at what was the milieu was constant center of community. So that felt like doorbelly, or at the very least, like drop everything and have a moment of friendship.
Yeah, I think there's something so special about that. And I actually get really envious of people who either have great streets where they have a lot of friends, or in the suburbs have like a cul-de-sac or an area where people just spontaneously hang or the backyards come together. Because I want to remove decision fatigue and planning fatigue from friendship. I want it to just happen organically because you see somebody and say, oh, do you want to go for a walk? Or I'm going to get coffee too.
Come with me.
Yes. And I will say in this Doorbell Friends article, they did have other examples that you could be going to do an errand and you ask if a friend wants to join you, or you're picking up coffee and you know what your friend likes. And so you just grab it and say, I'm going to drop it at your front door if you're home. So there's ways to extend the sort of the aperture of a doorbell friend, but I love the concept.
I do too. I do too. I do have a friend out here in Southwest Michigan that lived in like the city of Union Pier, just like a very cute lakeshore town. And she talked about how her neighborhood in Union Pier, people would just drop by. They would have friends over. They'd hang out in each other's backyards. Like that's to me like the ideal. I think we can have it in this life. The article did give a hot tip though. If you want doorbell friends, you have to leave
your house.
You know, you do have to leave your house, but you also have to leave the metaphorical door open for your friends. So they suggested saying, please feel free to stop by any time to friends who you would like to invite to be a doorbell friend. So hot tip, if you live near somebody you really, really like and you don't want them to feel shy to come right over, just tell them.
Yes. Also, I should have acknowledged at the top that I have a cold and that's why I sound like this. So I apologize for the scratchy, not so pleasant voice that I'm bringing to this episode.
Oh, Rachel, it is a 10 out of 10 sexy voice.
That was a whistle. You just couldn't tell.
I'm really excited. Well, I think the next article you brought is deeply related to a few themes we've already talked about, but just from a different angle. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Okay, I'm going to ask you first. So this was a New York Times piece of how often do you talk to strangers? And the author had an example that I really liked where she went to, I think it was an outdoor concert, and like not a high stakes concert, but like a nearby outdoor concert. And she went by herself. And there were a couple other people like her milling around solo. And she was about to default to looking at her phone, which is our social crutch. When you feel uncomfortable, you sort of look down and it's something to do. When this guy took the reins and sort of rounded up all these stragglers and was like, hey, what brought you guys here? Like he played camp counselor and he sort of invited everybody in to a conversation of, why do you like this band? What inspired you to come tonight? And the next thing you know, this author and this man and a couple other people are engaged in pleasant chit chat, light conversation, having a nice time. And then it segues into the concert starting, which I think led her to analyze there can be high risk, high reward. Sometimes you might get a dud or a boring person. Sometimes you might get a fascinating conversation and make a new contact. And I think in the piece, she also interviewed him a little bit about why he did it. And he said something really wonderful, which I feel like you quoted about, he said, I've come to believe that people simply want fun and interesting things to happen to them. So he was trying to facilitate.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a friendship leader, which I think we are gifted when we meet a friendship leader. Stefan, the friendship leader from that article from the New York Times.
You're a friendship leader.
You're a friendship leader.
We try. We try.
We try. Well, the question that this article poses is, how often do you talk to strangers? And it argues for talking to strangers. Rachel, I know you talk to strangers.
I'm actually going to give you another twin story because this was a cute one. I do love talking to strangers. And just to back up for a moment, during COVID, I had a bit of an epiphany that what I was craving was conversation with people I wasn't close to, that I missed the light pleasantries and the banter and the engagement with peripheral people, like a barista or somebody in a restaurant. Trader Joe's checkout, right? Like it's a bucket you don't even know you need to fill until it's completely empty, that you want to engage with the world, not just your people that you reside beside. Okay. So I know some people are uncomfortable with stranger talk, but I had a flight on Sunday back from Minnesota. So it was an hour flight and our seats got a little funky so that I was sitting with Kayla. Ruben got upgraded to first class and Shira had to sit alone. And I'm like, Shira, are you going to be okay? And she's like, I'm fine. So Shira plops in a middle seat a few rows ahead of me. And next to her is a mom with an adorable baby and a man who, let's say, is in his 30s. And so the flight goes by. And as we land, I get up and I kind of pop my head to see how Shira is doing. And she is in deep conversation with both of her seatmates. And they turn around to say hello. And they're like, wow, it sounds really hard to apply to high school in Chicago. I'm like, what is Shira talking about with you?
I mean, she's brought up the selective enrollment exam.
She brought up selective enrollment to Chicago high schools. So somehow in the course of an hour, they got from like the baby to Shira to what grade she's in to how school's going to her anxiety about testing into high school. But
my God.
Yes. And then, Jeana, the woman let me hold her baby, which was the best.
A gift.
But I said to Ruben, I go, just so you know, this holding baby moment was the highlight of my entire day. It was such a truncated amount of time. Like we're on this flight for an hour. I'm talking to this mom for moments. Shira had her little thing, but that was a beautiful thing. That was great stranger talk, bonding. I got to see Shira flourish. They were like, bye, have a great day. So I always say hi to people on airplanes that I'm sitting next to, even just to acknowledge that we are going to be wedged together for the length of a flight. I'm like a huge double thumbs up to talking to strangers.
Yeah. I'd like to double click on something. When
what would that be, Jeana?
Well, one of you in your family, Ruben, gets upgraded, not you. What is the conversation? How does that how does that get discussed as a family?
This is fine. This is actually my fault. I don't want to say fault, my goof up, if you will.
Yeah.
So Ruben has status on United. None of us, not the rest of us do not. And he had to go return the rental car, and he dropped us. And so I checked in. I guess Ruben, being such a great dad and husband, normally opts out of getting upgraded if he's traveling with the family. I didn't know I had to do that.
That what a mensch. Okay.
Yeah. So when he came, the girls saw the screen and they were like, oh my God, Dad, you're first class. And he's like, oh, shoot, is that, is this going to throw everything off? And I'm like, it's an hour. Kayla's not sitting alone, but Sheila can. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. I feel like every family has a system for the upgrade. Even couples, like you have to discuss if one of you gets upgraded and not the other, there's a discussion. Are we taking it? Or or are we staying together in economy? Um,
So I feel like it has to be circumstantial. Like I can't say uniformly that you
yeah,
should always take it or always not take it.
I can't say that either, because we also had sort of a rule. I mean, like Justin and I talk about it together because he has a bad back. So traveling in economy with less legroom, like, isn't that great for him. So if he gets upgraded, like, I'm usually go. Um, but there was one long trip where we were coming back from Los Angeles to Chicago, and we were sitting, just a plane full of bad behavior. Like
Oh,
there were people, I don't know if this has happened to you, Rachel, and I'd actually love to discuss it. Has anyone ever asked you to trade seats with them on a plane, and the trade was to a worse seat?
yes. And one time, you know, I try to be really nice about this stuff.
Mhm.
One time there was a request for a worse seat, and all I
Yeah.
wanted to do on an early flight was have a window and
Relax.
sleep. And
Yeah.
so I said no to this engaged couple,
Yeah.
and they were not happy.
Book your seats together. That's your problem,
Yes,
couple.
we're on a
I mean,
tangent. I
yeah,
wanna be accommodating, but I
yeah,
don't think the trade can be worse. The trade has
it
to be
can't be
equal or
worse.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was on this flight. I'll get to this seat. I was on this flight where someone had asked me to trade to a worse seat. And it wasn't just a worse seat, it was like half the leg room. Like, it was this
Oh, no.
weird, yeah. So she was next to me. The seat we were trading, she was asking me to trade with, was way worse. Justin was with me, and there was this other guy who was next on the list for the upgrade list. So it was Justin, then this guy. And the guy who was with us was being just not very nice, just with the seat trade situation, to Justin, to me. And Justin was offered the upgrade. And the guy was like, "You're going to let him take the upgrade without you?" Without
Oh,
realizing that he's next on the list. And I was like, "You're going to jump in?" to him. And I went, "You know what, Justin? Take it." And he went, later, he goes, "I was next on the upgrade list. That's why I was pushing it." Bad behavior all
oh
around
my
us. Bad
god.
behavior all around us.
Oh, I would say airplanes are, like, the craziest microcosm of society. Sometimes you
Yeah,
get the best, sometimes you
best.
don't, but
Most times I feel like I'm surrounded by good people. That flight, I was like, what am I attracting here? What am I giving off? All right, we've gone on a tangent.
we've gone on a
Ugh.
tangent. But I do
Hmm.
think that if you can be kind on an airplane, sometimes great
Yeah.
connections are made.
Yes. You could be caught on an airplane. You'll also make everyone's lives easier.
Yes. Okay, Gina, our final thing, you pulled for me and I was like, ding, ding, ding. So why don't
Yep.
you set this one up?
Okay, this was a straight up Instagram post, mildly satirical, but still, you, in satire there is truth. The post was about a curated dinner. It was on the Sunday Scaries account. We'll link to it in the show notes, like everything else. And the author was lamenting that they had curated the people specifically at this dinner, who they wanted to see, who they wanted to talk to. Everyone knew each other, everyone got along. And the thing that they took issue with was one of the folks that they had invited had asked to bring a plus one. Um, and the author was upset about a plus one because they had curated this dinner, because it would throw off the dynamic, because instead of catching up and going deep with each other, they'd all have to shift into getting to know this person. So, Rachel, I want to know, you've curated a dinner, someone asked for a plus one. What's your reaction?
I immediately flash back to our favorite, Priya Parker,
Mm-hmm.
because she talks about the gift of exclusivity. And at first, we all want to believe that it's the more the merrier, and you should really be generous with including people
Mm-hmm.
and be welcoming. But when you step back and think about it, you might be sacrificing a very special group dynamic at the altar of
Mm-hmm.
inclusivity, and then no one really benefits. I
Mm-hmm.
am sure that I've been on both sides of this equation. I'm sure that I have been the generous, oh, can Rachel come too? And inadvertently, my presence meant people felt maybe a little less comfortable or at ease talking about things they wanted to. And on the flip side, I have definitely been at dinners where I'm like, oh, there's a stranger here.
Yeah,
They're friends
mixed
with the
company.
one. Yeah, there's a so and so brought their friend that nobody else knows. And then now we all kind of have to reposition the conversation and our way of
Mm-hmm.
interacting to make this person feel at home. but now we're doing this extra legwork and it doesn't feel like I wanted it. So again, I liked those posts because it is satirical, except it's also really true. You feel this bit of resentment sometimes of, I wanted to be with the friends that know me so we can go right to this place, gossip or bitch or, commiserate or laugh about something. And now we have a different element and it's not cohesive anymore. So sometimes I think you should, if you're the person who wants to bring a +1, really stop and think, am I going to upset the apple cart by adding this element?
And I think there's a time and a place for a +1. I think as a host who's curating a dinner, the kindest thing you can do is be specific.
Yes.
So you can say like, no +1s at this dinner. Next time, I'd love for us all to bring a friend you think everyone would like. I think if that's the tendency of the group to try to bring new people in, that's lovely. But also, we do need a yap here and there, or a session where people just know the history and the backstory. To your point, so I think I understand what the author was trying to say, but I also on the flip side have been the new friend who was invited along to someone else's dinner, and I've made some great friends that way. So I think like every new person is an opportunity to make a new friend. But I also understand needing a little deeper, closer connections for specific things. I could see it both ways, quite honestly.
Yes. And I think you're having a more balanced viewpoint because from a place of diplomacy, it can be great to meet new people and you never know what can happen and somebody can add something unexpected and lovely. But other times you might want to be a little more protective of a core group because that time is special and meaningful as well.
And you also want to be able to share pieces of your life without feeling judged. So I think the thing is, as we get to know people, we come to know how they feel about us. And there are things that all of us do that might look like ugly or just like a little bit different than how you would do things in your own life. And I think in adulthood, the truest friends are the people that accept that you are a little bit different than them and they don't pass judgment on how you live your life and do things. We don't know that for sure with a new friend too. So I could see that being sort of like uncomfortable.
Yes. I'm like reaching for an analogy of how this feels in my brain and I don't exactly have it, but it's sort of like, say you have a group of people you go running with and you all know each other's pace and you have the route and everything's down. So it's like, it's a go. And then somebody adds somebody else into the mix and they're like, oh, I'm a really good power walker.
Yeah.
Well, then you're not running anymore. Everybody has to sort of rejigger and figure out how to adapt to the pace of this other person. Yeah. So maybe the takeaway is just being a little bit socially attuned and thinking through your role in a group and what you're contributing.
Yeah. I love that. Rachel, anything that's come up as we talk about connection in the news today?
I think that maybe we should do this again. There's a lot of interesting content out there about friendship and networks and communicating and connection. And it's kind of fun to parse it with you.
I know. I do love a good yap with you, Rachel. I'm just going to hammer
Jeana,
that word
I do
home.
love our dynamic. Yes.
I do too. Well, this has been another episode of The Connection Code, a podcast about friends, connections, work, and everything in between. It's a podcast and a production by two friends, Rachel Gilman-Richel and Jeana Anderson Cohen. Thanks to Rachel for curating this episode with me. This has been quite a delight. And thanks to Ben Cleaver for editing. And thanks to all of you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.